This is Charlie Murder, and it's a weird game. However, that's one of the reasons why you should play it. Developed by Ska Studios and published by Microsoft Studios, Charlie Murder is an arcade-style beat-em-up for up to 4 players that follows the adventures of the fictional punk rock band Charlie Murder and their battle against the rival band Gore Quaffer and the zombie apocalypse they've unleashed on the world as a result. Now, traditionally the story is the weakest part of a beat-em-up, and Charlie Murder doesn't really disprove that trope, but it does do some cool things with storytelling. The majority of the story is told through flashbacks showing the events leading up to the start of the game, while emails and radio station DJs will give you some explanation as to what's going on currently. There are nice ways to tell the simple, yet dark story of Charlie Murder. Since it's a zombie apocalypse, you're going to be going through many cliché horror story locations such as graveyards, crypts, and abandoned malls while fighting a lot of grotesque monsters and bosses. However, there's also a lot of really goofy moments and references in the game, which shouldn't really come as a surprise to those who actually know about the two-person team at Ska, since they made a sub-team in their company called Team Renegade Radio just so they could put their cats in the credits of the game. At times, the game resembles a black comedy, putting in dark humor or otherwise completely out-of-the-place movie references just to get a laugh out of the player. It more or less succeeds at that, though, helping give the game some charm. The art direction for the game can be a bit divisive for people as well. While the game uses Ska Studios' trademark art style, it doesn't feel as gritty and stylized as it did in previous games from the company, such as the Dishwasher series of games. And there's actually a very good reason for that. This game actually uses color. Most areas and characters vary in a wide spectrum of colors compared to the mostly monochrome look of the Dishwasher games, and that can throw off fans of those games. One thing that did carry over, though, is the gore. Ska's artists can draw monsters and gore very well, and they both shine in this game, making each boss look unique and disgusting, and making each kill super visceral and satisfying. Paired up with the game's soundtrack, which is a mix of punk rock, metal, and in some cases just ambient noise, you've got a slightly strange but pretty good audio-visual experience. When you start the game, you're given the choice of 5 different characters, each a member of the band Charlie Murder. Each character is a different class, and while they all start out feeling the same, after you level them up enough, they become fairly unique. Some characters can lift up cars, while others can summon demon hordes, and others can buff characters. It helps make the characters feel unique from each other, which is good, since the hand-to-hand combat is otherwise the same between the characters, since everyone has basic weak and strong punch combos, aerial combos, and grabs, although the character customization can fix that problem a little bit as well. During the game, you'll pick up random loot drops that include articles of clothing. Putting these on change the look of your character and will raise your stats and add special effects, such as having a chance of lighting someone on fire or burning them with acid by punching them. You'll find yourself changing your look a lot since you find better equipment all the time, but if you find a setup that you really like, there are items you can use to transfer better stats from other clothing items to your current gear. On top of all of that, there are a lot of random weapons thrown around the world, and even dismembered enemy body parts can become weapons. You're never really without options as long as you look around you. If a number of those gameplay features sound familiar, that's because they are. Ska Studios has done something with this game that can be considered both a good thing and a bad thing. They've basically made a greatest hits version of the entire beat-em-up genre. The game is heavily inspired by well-known titles in the genre, and many elements found in those games appear in Charlie Murder. The biggest and most obvious influence on the game, though, is River City Ransom for the NES. That game introduced RPG elements such as enemies dropping money, increasing character stats by buying random items from stores and inventories. All those things are in Charlie Murder. Now, some of you may be wondering why that's a bad thing, and that's mainly because the game doesn't really do anything new overall with the genre, at least gameplay-wise. If you've never liked games in this genre such as Scott Pilgrim vs. the World or Castle Crashers, then this game will not interest you at all. Charlie Murder is a love letter to fans of that genre made by other fans. It's clearly a passion project for Ska Studios, and it shows in how well it takes ideas from other games and meshes them together cohesively. Sure, some things don't quite work the way the developers intended, such as the stat-boosting food items eventually making your level-up stat points obsolete, but everything otherwise meshes together really well. While the core gameplay mechanics might be the same as other brawlers, that doesn't mean there aren't some new or cool things added to the game. One of the more interesting features is your character's cell phone. It's how you actually receive tutorials, emails, add your stat points, check your experience level by seeing how many followers you have on the in-game Twitter knockoff, and take pictures of QR codes in the game to unlock gear, followers, and money. It's a neat little touch to make the game feel more modern. There's also different little minigames to break up the flow of combat between areas and to add some variety to the game. On top of all of that, there's also hidden areas, bosses, and the game even has multiple endings and unlockable difficulties and characters. It took me roughly 8 hours to clear my first mostly solo playthrough, and that was while taking my time to find as many secrets as possible. That kind of length is crazy for a genre where the average length of a game is usually a couple hours at best. The game can be played with up to 4 players offline or online. As of this review, there are some random glitches that'll happen online, such as private matches not actually being private matches, players losing control of their characters during certain scenes, or cutscenes playing twice for anyone but the host player, forcing the host to wait around without being able to actually do anything. Thankfully, Ska Studios is currently working on a patch for this, and they happen infrequently enough that the game is still enjoyable online regardless. Charlie Murder is available exclusively on the Xbox 360 for $10. While those who don't like beat-em-up games probably won't find anything here that'll change their minds, if you're a fan of the genre, or if you've enjoyed games like Castle Crashers or Scott Pilgrim vs. the World the Game, or any of the Ninja Turtles games, then you should play Charlie Murder.